Hello and welcome to Wehry Dads. I'm your host, Pete Wehry, with my co-host.
Dad. And I'm glad to be here.
And who's our sponsor today?
Trident Tropical Twist Gum, because it helps me with bad breath. And people out there, you get bad breath, so make sure you help yourself by chewing gum. And I like Tropical Twist. Trident.
You chew gum and the world rejoices.
Yeah, because I don't have bad breath.
And today we're talking about evening routines.
Yeah. Some people would say, I got an evening routine. What would they say their evening routine is, most Americans?
So that's when you get that 3 hours of TV watching in. That's they watch TV while they eat dinner, and then they watch TV while falling asleep. And
which is
and then most Americans there's like, I think I don't remember the statistics on it, but it's at least over a quarter of Americans, I think it might be higher, are on regular sleep medication. And this is where I've mentioned Andrew Huberman with neurological stuff. Yeah. It's not actually that hard to get good sleep, and I say that, and I know that's going to make some people angry. Mm-hmm. There's some very simple rules that if you follow them, it makes a huge difference. And a lot of it relates to these triggers. So it's about what you do before and what you do after. So let me just throw those out. And I think we've kind of talked about this, but reducing your exposure to light before, definitely no screens for the 2 hours before you go to sleep. And that's really hard for people. They don't want to do that. So reading is fine, like some low light reading, and just doing calming, just calm things, right? And of course, for me, that's like an hour before bed because I'm putting the kids to bed, and that's not very calming. So true. But then in the morning, trying to get out into natural light and exercising, and that tells your body that this is the time that you sleep, and it's that follow up. So if you do those things, I'll add drinking tea. That's something I do at night. Something
I had that in here.
Chamomile, something.
I have that in here.
Yeah, it's good.
Hey, that's really good because
apart from sleeping, Dad.
No, but it's good because
I was going to say, apart from, what do you think?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I break one of those rules, but as soon as I turned 45, I could fall asleep anywhere after 10. And then I would say this. It's interesting because when I was younger, I would never have known that, but I used to stay up, watch a game or whatever, 10:30. I would get in bed and I would read for a half an hour to an hour before I'd fall asleep. Now, I don't do that anymore because I am older and I can fall asleep. But when you have your brain is just flipping with the ideas all the time, and I really believe that's true about television. And what I'll say, folks, is as we talk about evening routine, I want to close it up with the work routine. I always review my next day, and I have my day planned for the next day. So I do that, and if not, I do it right away at the beginning of my time when I do finally sit down in the evening. But we'll eat dinner, and then we try to go for a walk. And that's good for digestion. It's good for your health. And then what I try to do is
good for your marriage.
It is. It's really good. Lisa and I connect, and we're blessed to have 2 little puppies, so we'll walk them. Okay. And then when we do sit down, this, your mom and I love old British TV shows. So we watch old detectives. That right now we're watching a Toronto detective, Detective Murdoch. But go ahead, Pete. You want to say something? Because Pete sneaks in and watches it with us sometimes.
No, I'm just smiling. I hear the bum, bum, bum,
the
bum,
music.
bum, 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 the bass line going. I go by your door.
I know it's coming.
It's Murdoch time.
And so, folks, you'll say, well, is that your whole evening routine? Well, the truth is, for my wife, who has been handling just managing things, and managing our family, my wife and I, managing some of the things that she can help with PJ and Becky, but she, for a long time, managed my parents. right? And still living with them in assisted living. She's taking care of that. She has a couple other family scenarios that she's helping with. So when she will just basically finally get down and sit down, we'll put that on. But I don't totally watch Murdoch. I hate to burst everybody's bubble. That's where I may do an email where something has come in late. Remember, I tell you all I did my emails in the from 9:30 to 10. I might have one that came in the afternoon. And then what I really love to do, or I'll even email my partners in ministry. But what I love to do then is that's when I review my day, review my goals. I'll look at the next day and say, okay, when I wake up in the morning, what do I need to knock out? It's interesting. PJ said this. It begins a winding down time for me because I'll drink some hot tea.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll check where Mom and I are.
That's a change for you.
Yeah. Well, I used to drink decaf coffee. I heard it's not that healthy.
It used to be decaf.
Yeah. But
yeah.
Some warm drink and then here's the other thing that I do. Our ministry uses Salesforce. PJ, are you aware what Salesforce is?
It tracks contacts for the company, largely sales stuff.
But we keep contact of all the coaches, character coaches, and so forth. Well, that's what I will put in what we've done for the day, what I've done for the day. And now, sometimes I have one or two of those that I have to put in. Sometimes if I talk to partners in ministry, send out an email, that's like 100. But some of that's copying and pasting. I connected. But I do all that in the evening. So, folks, I don't know if I'm making sense, but my day is not all work, but there's work in certain spots of my day. But it allows me to have flexibility to eat lunch with my wife, or sometimes not, whatever it is, and dinner with the family.
Sometimes you eat lunch with
yep. But I am able to be flexible. So somebody would say, Pete, how many hours a week do you work? The answer I would say is, it depends. It depends because some days, like yesterday, I probably worked 12 hours. I don't even, I had some phone calls, I had some Zoom calls, I had so much, so forth. And you say, well, what's this got to do with the evening routine? Because for me, going slow in the evening allows me to refocus, refresh, and repair for the next day to jump in and get things done. And I just think it's important. The big goal, and PJ is I want to get up in the morning before 6, right around 6:30, at the latest 6:30. You can't do that if you go to bed at midnight. You cannot. I mean, you can, but you're going to pay for it. So my wife and I's goal is to be in bed by 10. We can flex to 10:30, but
yeah.
And by the way, it takes time to shut down the house, and we count that in there. How does that
right?
How do you feel like that flows when you think about your evening routine, which obviously fluctuates with the boys, but I see it similar. You try to get in bed by 10, right?
Yeah. Right. Well, and I try, and it's been different. We had something really solid before the baby came. And of course, the baby that's okay. That's just part of it. I woke up very early in the morning and I would go to bed around 8 and I would read till like probably 9:30, 10. And then I would fall asleep, get up at 5. But I've been putting the boys down because Becky Sue has Frankie, and that's fine. So it's just been different. What I love about this, even as we've been talking about this, is how you have to find what works for you. So the idea of trying to do anything while watching TV, and you've always been able to do this, I can't do that. I have to watch what's on TV. I can't. So the idea of working, like, it doesn't really, I end up not getting anything done.
Yeah, that's good, PJ, because I do that. Some people can't.
Right. Like, I mean, you'd have Law and Order on through the day while you were working, and I'd look over and like, I'm like, are you seeing what's happening? And you're like, no, I have no idea. And like, I think you just like the noise and you like to look over for like the climax of the show or whatever. And so for me, I'm like, I have to like follow every bit of it. So it's just, you need to find what works for you. Obviously I don't think you're doing that for your like deep concentration times, but just as you're kind of getting that busy work, I think we all have like those little administrative things. You're talking about Salesforce. That's huge. For me, it's looking how you can be more efficient, but not to the point, like, you also have to recognize you're human too. And that's where I struggle sometimes, is building in, you mentioned closing down the house, and just like giving yourself 15-minute breaks to breathe. And a lot of times I try to go from thing to thing, and I'll be doing 2 or 3 things at once with the kids and like phone calls and cooking. So that gets really hairy. And then like I've learned I have to take 10 to 15-minute breaks in between those moments. Otherwise I get overwhelmed. I can't just go from trying to help the kids with their homework and cooking and answering a business question to Becky Sue and then go right into a podcast. It doesn't, I'm like, I show up and I'm just like buzzing, right? I'm just like, and that's not a good place to have a conversation from. And so creating restful moments is, I think, just really important, creating those routines. And so for evening, like for really finding what works for the kids. And I think one of the things we struggle with just with like all the different life changes we've had is creating a routine for them. But when we have a routine, they will go to bed. And I think that's a lot of times when you're struggling with your kids and going to bed, which is a consistent thing, seeing what's changed and making sure, like Halloween, of course, they had candy. And I was like, okay, so we're going to just cut down on the candy, right? Sugar before bed, not a good idea. But more just seeing what works and be like understanding it not as a schedule that you're imposing on the kids, but that you are negotiating a little bit, right? You're like, well, okay, this is what I need, right? I need you to go to sleep. What do you need to go to sleep? And every kid's going to be slightly different. So Finn just wants snuggles and he wants to be comforted and he wants to feel secure. Søren, they talk about music taming the beast. If I sing 3 songs, he is out. Like 90% of the time, he is out if I sing. If I do anything else, he is jumping on the bed. And so I've learned, I'm like, you know what? I can try and do 1 song because I don't feel like singing tonight, and then spend half an hour trying to keep him in bed. Or I could just sing the 2 extra songs, take another 5 to 8 minutes, and then he's out. And it's one of those things, like, it seems so obvious when you step back and look at it, but when you're in the middle of it, you're like, I don't want to sing another 2 songs. And then what I realized, like, for the 5th time, I'm getting up and saying, Søren Keats, get back in your bed. I'm like, oh, I need to just like, I need to make this happen. Like, this is well worth it. And so I think seeing that with kids is big. I think, making sure that you have time for family. I love that you walk with mom. The statistics around family dinners where you actually sit down with the family are huge. And for me, that's a natural lead in to things like family devotions, so that you make sure your kids, and that stuff sticks with them, are following after God, that. And so I think all those little bits played in. And then if you build a solid routine for your kids and they go down, then you can build a solid routine on top of that. But all of this is just, it is discipline, but you have to have a discipline that is able to flex, so that you aren't like, oh, it's 8:30, right. It's 8:40, and they're not down yet. They're supposed to be down to 8:30, and I'm like,
Yeah, you
like,
can't do that. Okay. That's really good.
Deep breath.
And I would say this, folks, we talked about routines. We're going to finish up with one here on travel routines, and I'll probably do too much talking there because I'm the one that does a lot of that. But I want you to all hear some of the things PJ is saying. Obviously, there's the flexibility, especially as it comes to family. And then the other thing is, all of these routines affect the other routines. Like your evening routine affects your morning routine. in your morning routine. And I loved what he said, because I said, take a 5-minute, walk in between. They say how good that is. Well, if you're listening to PJ, he has different tasks that he's working on. He needs a emotional and mental break. And I hate to use those terms but people just called it, I'm going to go get a cup of coffee. That's what people said 10 years ago. I'm going to go get a cup of coffee. No, they say you need these emotional breaks. Well, whatever the terms are, there's truth. You need to, you can't focus. And if you can't focus, you can't function. And then what happens is you get emotions involved and frustration. So I'm hoping that as we've talked about, like morning routines and work routines and evening routines, the biggest thing you're going to see is all of these are intertwined in setting up the rhythm for each one. And you being mature enough to say, I'm going to get to bed. Like, it's important. And I'm going to get up early because it helps me focus. And by the way, there's guys, I'm thinking of a guy right now, he's a very successful pastor, has a podcast, blah, blah, blah. His best work time is from 10 at night to like 1 in the morning. That's bizarre to me.
Yeah.
But so you got to flex it, but
but he has
right.
He meets his mind there.
That's exactly right. So
yeah.
Hope that this one helped you as we talk about evening.
Can I say,
please do.
The one thing that I would say, and I found this, and I think it's kind of interesting. You mentioned right there, the 10 to 1 time. Whatever that time is that you really have to make it happen. For me, that's the morning, right? I think if you need to set your let's say you have a broken cycle right now. Your routine, you're constantly just reacting, and you're not getting sleep. You're not getting things done. What I have found for me personally, but my time is morning, not night. So I'm curious what it would matter for him. But if you want to reestablish the cycle, you don't start with the morning. For me, what I have found over the years, when I have to get back into things, the cycle starts at night. So if it's broken right now, if it's reactive right now, and you get that work done best in the morning, if you can get up before the kids, start with I'm going to, one of these nights, I'm going to start the cycle, and I'm going to start this night. And that's, if you want to get back in, that's normally the best place to start. For someone who's like 10 to 1, maybe that's afternoon, right? It's like, I'm going to make sure everything's set up, right? And it's normally not the one that's actually the time that you get everything done. It's the time before that to prep.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really, that's helpful, because I think a lot of people hearing this are like, oh, it'd be great if I had these cycles, but how do I keep breaking out of it, and how do I go back in? I would say start with the cycle. Like if you need that morning time, it starts with the evening.
Exactly. I think that's really good. It's like a preparation for the cycle to begin, and you have to think through it. And again, folks, this is just some of our thoughts. It's not Rosetta Stone, but I pray that you'll see the importance of finding routines and then thus rhythms, which will help you be more focused and then able to attain better work habits. So appreciate you, PJ. Love you.
Love you. Thank you.